Howdy lovelies, how are you all doing? Welcome back to Wawa Crafting, where we learn, grow and craft together. Today we are going to look at tags, and more specifically jumbo tags, but tags in general. There's a few more things that we can play with, and I want to maybe show you some texture paste, but definitely some white stamping. Now, last time in the last video, session 11, we had been making some zigzag pockets, and we also made the tag pocket that is in the shape of a tag. We did punch in the notches. You can leave it straight and it can be a tag in itself. Now, I want to sort of recreate this, but not going into depth with doing the printing. I'm simply going to recreate this without the stamping so that I can show you how you can turn this into a tag, and then it is a wonderful spot where you can have hidden journaling on the inside, and you can even have hidden journaling on this side. So if you flip it over like that, it looks like a normal tag, but it folds open into the pocket. I showed you this one as an example, and it is so easy just to slot in a tag there and do this with a little bit of contrast if you want it visible. If you don't want it visible, you don't have to punch that semicircle out of there with a circle punch. You can leave it straight and it will look like a tag once it's closed. So we will continue making some tags today, which is exceptionally versatile. With the zigzag pockets, we didn't get around to making the tags as the time for the video was running out, so added that little tag. Tags are so versatile to add to your journal because you can do so much with it. It can be a page element, it can be dangling from a string. You can add beads to it, add it with a ball pin. You can use it as an embellishment. You can pin it to a belly band or to a pocket. You can tuck it into a tuck spot or a pocket. You can also make a loaded pocket, which we will still do, which is something similar to this. Now, the little container where I keep all the goodies that we made is really slowly filling up. There's quite a bit in it. Yes, I did add here and there a few extras, and this will go in there as well as this that we worked on last week. I want to show you one more thing with the zigzag tags. Remember, I showed you that little bonus technique of using that strip of cardstock that you can actually not do much with unless you want to make a ticket or so. I folded it over just as it was last week, and look at this. If you just add it in that pocket, it really gives another dimension to that. And if we add the ticket, let's see if we have another one that we can add there that will actually fit in here, because this is so narrow. Even our tickets, we had made the tickets. You could add that in there. You can put so many different things in this pocket, and with that, it can be a loaded pocket by itself. Even that one where we had made the little flip over so that it forms a pocket could be added to this. Let's put this one at the back then because it's a bit taller, and we can actually fit that one in there. And in essence then, the zigzag pocket becomes a loaded pocket. Loaded because there's a lot of things in there. You can put small ephemera pieces. Remember, we made those tiny clusters. We also had made those little circle pockets. Those would be amazing to add in here, which is just another dimension. The little clusters can go in there. You can glue that on one side. There's so much that you can do with the little thingies that we created. So, with further ado, let's get started, and we can then play a little bit more and fold this up even more. Tags, the tags, that's what we're going to work with today. I'm just getting that tab out of the way. There we go. So previously, in the first session, session number 1, we were making tags, and we used the collage background way of using little scraps of paper or tearing paper, and we collaged on a smaller surface. Then later on, I'm not sure about exactly which, I think it was maybe session number 7, we were doing some ink smushing, where we smush the ink down, pressing it down onto a non-porous surface. Laminated sheet could be that. I used packaging material, the cellophane packaging, and I think a bit of lamination sheet just to show you. And then I went ahead and used my silicone mat for that. Now, here was the coffee dyed coffee dyed tags. I've got some of the ink smushing, which is this, some that still needs to have some more layers for dimension. And then we also did the flicking of the water technique, flicking on the Distress Oxide inks, which is looking like this. I hope you can see this. There we go. Just took away the background as it is very shiny, and it is actually quite disturbing to get that light reflecting back up. So from the ink smushing technique that I showed you, this was just with the water, and you can see the effect. So I want to use some of that today. I want to show you something similar because I want us to stamp today with white ink. So far we always use Vintage Photo, Tea Dye, Rusty Hinge, Walnut Stain, all the archival inks in ground espresso, vintage, coffee, sepia, whatever we had. But I would love us to look a little bit at using white distress ink. Now remember, with a white distress ink, it's ultimately pigment based, because how else will you get the white color in the ink pad, right? So with the jumbo tags, I had made quite a few with the coffee staining. You can have tremendous effects with it depending on what you do. Now when I start off, it's very, very light. It's yellow. It's this vanilla color. I think you are all quite familiar with that color, which is this beige, almost a peachy color. And then when you coffee dye it, it turns this very light brown color. And on there, you can, once it's dry, you can dry it naturally or with a heat gun. Or if you're also lucky to stay in a warmer place like I am, desert, it's quite warm here, it dries fairly well and quickly and quite straight. These were not flattened in any way. I didn't iron it. I didn't put any heavy object on top of it to flatten it out. So this can still be transformed into something else, adding loads more layers. And after every layer, you can dry it. So the effect, there you can see, I've added a little bit, then I splashed a bit of water on it, which gives those whiter spots. Then I went in and I added a little bit more coffee. So there's 2 layers on here, ultimately 3 with the water. So it just gives a different effect. This one I've done the coloring and added a little bit more coffee splatters. This one done. This is a 3rd layer, which is much darker. Here I took the foam because I use a very cheap coffee for my coffee dyeing, and there's a lot of chicory in it. So it foams up really well when you stir it to dissolve the coffee powder in the water. And that's what I had literally just scooped up from the solution and just left on it. It dries flat, but with a tiny bit of texture. I don't know if you can hear that. Here, also just a few drops extra. And you can see the intensity of that color on top. Same thing here and there. I used a bit of coffee from another tag. And simply, I think it was this one, just dabbed it on top to get the excess off. And then I put the darker splotches on top. I don't want to spend too much on that. Here it's even more darker as I have added more coffee to this. So I want us to get started into this. Now these tags are almost 4 by 8. It's about 1/16 shorter than 8 inches. Let me just show you. Literally, there we go. 1/16 short of 8 inches. And the width is less than, yeah, it's 1/16 as well, less than 4 inches. So it's quite a pretty big tag to work with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice a little bit off simply the length of my ruler, the width, I mean to say, not the length. That will probably never work. There's not so much tag left. Now, you can cut it off with your paper trimmer, pair of scissors. You can draw a line, or if you want to, you could just simply eyeball it. So I'm just doing that, which is literally the width of the ruler, just to get it that bit shorter. Let me show you. It is now 6 5/8. 6 5/8. 6 inches 5/8. Width, it's still the same. You can trim it off either side and then just reshape it on top if you want to resize it. I just want it a tiny little bit shorter. Then I want to go ahead and show you another technique where you can use your inks and create something. Now we've done this ink smushing and the Distress Oxide ink, we use that as well with the flicking of the water, which is giving us this beautiful background. But I want an intense look on this as well, especially for the white stamping that I want to do on here. Now I'm going to go ahead and take some of my ink, just with my little thing again, just work on there, just not to get ink on my work surface. So we're going to get started. Let me just see. Tea dye. Just trying to get an ink blending tool for the tea dye. Rusty Hinge will be quite dark, quite orangey, and I've got one here for it. Again, with the dome blending tool, it's easier to get it on than with a flat foam blending tool. This one makes marks. You start off the page and then get your color worked onto the tag from there. I'll just do another color here from this side maybe. I hope I'm in the frame still. Just maybe a little bit more there. Like I said, the domed ink blending tool makes it so much easier to get a more even distribution on. There was glue on this, so you can see it's staining the glue on the packaging material, which is fine. It's not a big issue. And you can create the most beautiful backgrounds with this technique. Let's get a little bit more, maybe like here. There we go. I will take the vintage photo and we will start on the plastic. Just dab it and work that ink then on. You can see my ink blending tool is getting a bit old as I use it so frequently, so there are tiny little bits of the sponge coming off. You can just simply wipe it off. It's not a big issue, really not a big issue. I just want to get some more of that vintage photo on here, up there. And you can use this technique with any of the colors of Distress inks, and of course the Distress Oxides as well. I'm not going to use Distress Oxide today. I just want to do this technique with the vintage photo. Listen to me, with the Distress inks. I meant to say I'm using vintage photo at this very moment. Now I'm going to completely cover this with vintage photo, and then I will be using, you know what, I keep on saying vintage photo. This is tea dye, no wonder it's so light. My vintage photo is still there, which is awesome. This is tea dye. I beg your pardon. The weather here is quite cool. In our neighboring state, it was snowing. So it is chilly for us here, and we had quite a bit of rain the last couple of days as well. So the temperatures did drop quite a bit from what we are used to, but January is our coldest month of the year. There we go. Let's work in a bit of that vintage photo. And this very specific thing I always tell you not to do, I just did by adding the ink blending tool directly to the stamped image. There we go. I like the color of the browns and oranges. I will leave it at that. Now this background is done. The last bit that I added was the vintage photo. Now I just want to wipe that bit of sponge. I will replace my little sponge on the ink blending tool soon, but not just yet. We'll get there. All right, so for the stamping, this is quite saturated, really white. I love it. It is the Picket Fence Distress Ink. I want to just get a text stamp. I think I will be using the entomology one. Sorry, it's still in, I kept some of it in its original packaging, which is quite disturbing now to get it out. So this rubber stamp, I love the stamp set. Absolutely amazing. The little insets. So for this one, I wonder if we should cut this one down. I will just use it. Why I'm asking whether we will cut it down is we don't know the size of our journal as yet. And this can, let me just take this, there's a glare on that one. Just move that out of the light. A sizing problem or a challenge because we don't know yet. It's easy to adjust the size of your journal, but if you're looking at maybe using a cereal box or something of that sort that you can use, that we will reinforce a bit, will be perfect. But it needs to be something with at least a 2.5 inch. 2 inches could still work. 2.5 inches will be better. We need something with a 2.5 inch spine. Now you can adjust that. It can be, if it's a cereal box, obviously it's a little bit longer. You can use cardstock that you have, thicker cardstock. It can't be something that is thin because it is the base of your cover, so we can adjust it. I will stick with this one. I just wanted to cut that one down to show you that we can resize our tags to what we want and how we want to use it. So for this one, I want us to just start stamping. What I'm going to do is just adding the ink to the stamp, and I'm not going to use the complete stamp. I don't want the tag to be completely filled with just white text. I want to add a bit here and there, so I'm just pressing the ink pad to the stamp. You will see I'm not using a stamping block because I do not intend to use the complete stamp. So with this, I'll just turn this a little bit sideways. So I'm just going to add a little bit there, maybe a bit there, some at the bottom, most definitely. There, I almost had the whole thing. Just press that just to get that bit there. And then I think that in the middle. And this gives us a beautiful white background. I hope you can see this. I hope you can see that in the camera. So I want to still continue using the white and add some of our other stamp sets that we used before. But before I clean the stamp or put it down, I want to just use that. And I will be using, I'll just use this because here I want to use whatever is left. Let me just see which one is darker. I want the white on white. Let's do this one. And oops, that was almost upside down. Not that it would have really mattered. I'm just going to press down what is left on this stamp. Not worry too much about getting a proper imprint, but a different layer, another dimension and interest on this tag. Am I going to finish it off today? Probably not. It's not bothering me. I'm not wasting the ink that's on there, and I can utilize that at a later stage. So here I simply have my stamp upside down, and I'm taking another tag, and there's still some white here and there, which I'll then just run my fingers over with a tag onto the stamp. That's another way that you can use this. And it gives a tiny bit, not much, but there's that little bits of interest. And that's where I will leave that one. And there we have it. My stamp is clean. So I'm just going to put that back onto that so that I keep my stamp set sorted. There we go. Now, with this one, I want us to look at the tiny stamp sets. We've got this one. I will use a stamp block for this. So I will be doing the antiquarian look on here with this clear stamp set, or the tiny toadstools, also from Stampers Anonymous, Tim Holtz. Adding that white on there, making sure it's inked well, and I'm going to add it there. Now, you know that the stamp is stained because of previous stamping. You can see it very clearly on there, but now I'm using a stamp block, and I'm going to press down on that. I just want to get our tiny toadstools out and ready. We've got that one. You know, we're using the stamp sets that comes from the mixed media, which is stencil set and stamp set. And I'm holding this a little bit longer. Bit of pressure. And let's see. There we go. We have that beautiful image there. And it's just so much different when you're stamping with white ink onto a colored background. And that's why I wanted this color, or the background, to be in a more solid color. There's a bit of stamping, so I will do this one there. I will be adding another one, maybe this area here. There we go. I love this look. It's too gorgeous. And from the tiny toadstools, the rubber stamp set, I'm using this stamp. So just stamping it up with a picket fence, making sure there's ink all over. I'll add this one there so that there is a part of this on that one. You don't always have to use the complete stamp. And there we have it. A tiny little bit of that stamp onto this tag, and then the imprint on there. So now I'm going to go ahead and just add a little bit of that beautiful background, little filler stamps that we used before. You know them already, but sticking to one theme, it makes you use your stamp so much better, because it basically forces you to come up with new ways of using it. Now I want to just, yes, we have text there, so I'm going to add this on top of that, just also another layer of dimension or interest, and stamp with that. A little bit of those circles, which we also have on the rubber stamp set. There is a piece of fluff on this stamp pad. There we go. Just stamping that up. And we can add maybe there on the orangey bit. Love orange. The browns are still very much in the vintage theme. Field label, which is not on the rubber stamp set. So that is a nice addition. Absolutely a nice addition. Again, stinking the stamp. Inking up the stamp, not stinking up the amp. Let's see, there. I think it will be perfect there. So we just add it there. And beautiful. Our little one, figure 1, 2, 3. Just getting it. Doesn't have to be straight because you can really see through the stamp block, and you can position it wherever you feel it will be perfect. So I'm going to add it there. And it's all just part of the background stamping. And then that one little stamp as well that is not on the rubber stamp set. Also a beautiful little, I just want to tilt it a little bit. My lighting is not the best. Yeah, it's looking good. Oh, that's something on the bottom of the tag. There we go. I was just like wondering, what is that? So I will put this stamp here next to the bigger mushroom image of the 3 that I've stamped, because there's one there, this one, and that one. So it's got numbers. This one is like a label image. I then want to just add this little circle one, which doesn't have an inscription at all, but an amazing little stamp for interest. And I'm going to add this one on top. You can see I am adding the other tag underneath, and I'm stamping at the same time over the 2 tags. So there's a bit of an interest there, and on this one. So going to go ahead, add a few of this. Really a beautiful little stamp. I just want to have that circular image repeated. And I'm going to go ahead now and repeat it even more, but in a vintage photo. So it will just enhance the browns in there and show up more or less like a coffee stain. Just here and there. Again, maybe one on top here, but just lining up the 2 tags so that they're right next to each other. And there. I like that. Truly awesome. Now, I'm going to use the stencil of mine and just add a tiny little bit of splatters. We can use the stamping, which I will do in a minute or so, but I love this splatter so much. I use it quite often. There we go. Look at that. Isn't it gorgeous? Now a little bit over there, and again I want that tag, but line it up again so that there's a bit of that there and a bit on this one. Awesome. Awesome. Did I smear some on there? Yes, I did, but it doesn't bother me. It really, truly doesn't bother me. It just contributes to the overall vintage feel of the completed tag in the end. With our other tiny little stamp set, we also have those splotches and things, so I will be using that as well, just into the vintage photo. This one has got like a grainy texture effect, a little bit like so, here and there, just that dimension, not wanting to take too much away from our white background stamping. So we've got that one, and then from the other stamp set, this one that I use so frequently, we're going to just add a little bit here and there, maybe there on the brown, and maybe on the top there, and maybe one there. I just want to turn it over to get the other part of this, and maybe a little bit on this side. There we go. And maybe there. That's it. There we go. And there we have the one tag. Now the only thing left is to just do the edges. As always, you know me well. I always finish it off by inking the edges. It just rounds it off well. You could have gone ahead and do it in white. However, I like the vintage feel. And most all my projects have got the inking on the edges. Draws the eye into the middle, and it just rounds off your project so well. You can do both sides. This one has got a bit of ink at the back, so you can cover this with a different paper if you want, something with lines. You can leave it as it is and just go with the flow, or you can even add more to this, which is what I think I will do. Simply use that stamp again. It will look as if it should have been like that. Add here and there a bit of splotches. Looks like ink, coffee splatters. And there we have it. Oops, I've got a bit of ink there, but it's fine. Rub it off, wash it off later, because it does come off with water. Or my good old baby wipes. I just want to add one tiny bit there. There we go. You can also go ahead and add a bit with a stencil. And maybe that one that I love so much as well. Truly looks as if somebody spilled a bit of coffee on there. And you can see again I had done the inking on the edges, so I'll just remedy that. Just a bit of ink on my little cellophane and just ink that part. And I will go ahead and just do, normally I will just dab my ink blending tool into the stamp pad itself, but I've got that bit of ink there. So just ink the edges, just one side still, and there we have it. And now it looks as if it was intended to look like that. Alright, so there's our one tag. Right, I'm going to go ahead and the one that we have done that bit of white stamping on, just to use the ink on the stamp. So we're going to use that one, and I want to use a very dark ink on top of this, which is Walnut Stain, and I am just going to add a stamp to our stamp block. I just want to get this out of the way. One that we have used so many times before, one of those nifty little stamps from the mixed media set, the stencil and stamp set. So this is Walnut Stain, and I'm going to just stamp on top of this as we are making a few more tags today. Now with the tags, like I said in the beginning, I want to recreate that tag pocket and just show you how you can finalize that and making it really look like a tag. And there we have that one. Just remove this little stamp, which really enjoys attaching itself to the stamp block. Again, using that. And you can see that you can use these stamps in so many different ways. You can even take this, stamp it on a piece of scrap paper, and then cut it out, fussy cut it, and then you use some foam tape to have a little bit of dimension. Simple. We have the background smushing, the flicking of the water, making that boo-boo on there with the ink is after I had that splotch there, bit of stamping, which we're going to add another bit on this side maybe, on top just like that, and a bit of that stamp again that looks like splotches. Don't want to cover too much of our white stamping because that is a lovely dimension. Now I also want the field node. No, let's do just figure 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is that tiny filler stamp, also in Walnut Stain. quite dark, but really lovely. And I want to just add it there on top of that half circle that we've just stamped. There we go. And that rounded one. I love that one. And again, stamping it up. And we can add it in this area. And that's how we will blemish that boo-boo we made earlier, where I had not looked what I've done, and I added that corner of the stencil. I had some ink going over the edge, and now it just looks like it's blended in. And there we have another label, a tag done, that we can add to our project wherever we feel like. Again, just going to ink it up, maybe a bit of walnut stain, just to make it look more cohesive, and focusing on the darker inking this time around. And there we have it, the ink smushing at the back coming through. This doesn't bother me. If it bothers you, you can add a piece of any type of paper. You can add whatever you have on there. This one is a tiny bit small, but you can add book page, you can add white cardstock, you can add lined paper, really truly anything at this point. Craft paper, sorry, again, a small piece of scrap, not big enough to really cover it, but you can cover those stains if it is bothersome to you. So we've got 2 tags finished for today. Now I want to recreate that pocket again quickly, so I will just tidy up the workspace so that I can go ahead and show you. Didn't get to all the tags, but you get the idea, and you can truly play with it. Didn't even work on this one. Time truly flies when you are having fun. So let's put that back into the basket. So for the paper, I'm just grabbing this one, and like we did last time, we're going to fold it over. I just want to see those two. I want that on the outside, so this will be on the inside. Let's do it like so. Not going to work, yes? Sad. So fold it in half, and again in half, which ultimately means it is folded in quarters. Just a quick one. Just going to utilize that by adding a little bit. No stamping today. You can if you truly want. Just flipping this over so we get the same thing, flush and flush. You could, however, just cut it off and used it to cut the same thing on the other side. There we have that. As always, keep this for a later stage when we're filling in masterboards. And I do start when I have pieces. I continue to make masterboards all the time. So a little bit of glue just to complete it. Now, like last time, I almost glued the end shut. Now today I'm not going to punch in the notches, as I truly want this to look like it tags. So I'm going to burnish this very well, just to get it as flat as possible. Going to add that tiny bit of ink, almost said ink, tiny bit of glue, just so that we can glue this shut. So just a tiny bit on top there, and there. Fold this over on itself. Again, our trusted baby wipes, just making sure there's no extra glue there. And there we have it, done and sorted. So we have that there. A little bit of it showing. I would have preferred it if it was at the bottom. Now, going to use, I decided to have something on there. Not dipping the ink blending tool again in the ink pad. I'm simply going to add some splatters on here with the stencil, and I want to use that one maybe there. You see there's still enough ink on this. Quite amazing. I'll use the bigger one like that. And that's an easy decoration. I will stop there. Not even more than that. Nothing more needed. Now I want to just add something on top here, and it doesn't have to be ribbon. It can still be paper. So it's not an issue if you just add something on top. Now we're not going to add it over both of them, because then you can't open this up, because this is still our pocket. So we can still add something in there, just using a tag now, but you can add some card there. You can make a little folio, which is a piece of cardstock. Let me grab some quickly. I'm using just a piece of beige here. I've got 3 sheets. We can simply fold it over. You can make this as elaborate as you want to. Simple, just fold it over. Let me take that tag out, and you can then add this, because there's quite some leeway in there. And if this is closed, everybody will think it's just a normal tag, a much wider tag. So let's go ahead and just add something on top so that it really truly looks like a tag. What are we going to use? Well, we had that little piece that I was cutting off earlier from this tag. Remember, I had resized this, and we have this strip which is quite sturdy. So what am I going to do? I am going to fold this in half. Simply fold this in half using a bone folder, because it's quite thick. If it was just paper, it would not have been an issue. Now, we can't add it this way because this is not open. You can maybe slit it there and then add it, but it's not big enough to completely fit over that. So let me do that to show you what I mean. Just give it a little bit of a space there. So we're going to then glue it in like so in the middle, and you have a beautiful finishing for that. Now you can round it. However, I'm not rounding this because it's got the sharp edges. I'm going to just punch the top. If it will go through, do that one. Now this one will be quite thick. I would not suggest it because it will get stuck, but I've got the size, so I just snip it with my pair of scissors, and there we have it. So now I'm going to add glue. There we go. A bit there, all over, some in the middle because you want this to be sturdy, and you're going to add glue on both sides. There we go. Not too much because you don't want any to run out. And as before, you're just going to add that in the middle like so, so that there is a little place for you. Just reposition it where you want it, and we still have that little bit of leeway. And you've got enough glue without it seeping out on the sides, and there you have your little tag. Opening it up, you can have your little pocket on the inside. Still space for this to fit in there, maybe showing a little bit there, so don't push it in so far. And there you have it. Oh, we only have one for the one side. Let's fold another one for the other pocket, because remember, it's a double pocket, and you can add it. I'm not decorating it right now. You can go ahead and decorate it. So let's just do one. I'll just quickly do one with you. Something as simple as taking a stamp, and I want to take the text stamp that we had used earlier, but I want to show you something. I'm going to, this is half. I'm going to fold another one, and I'm going to use part of it as a mask. So I'm trimming this so it's the same size, so I can use that card. Then I'm going to take, and I'm literally just eyeballing this now, so I'm going to use more or less the same width from there. Is it going to be perfect? No. Does it bother me? No. Don't throw away. You can stamp on it so it goes into the basket. What am I doing? I'm going to position this now If you can see that, I should have done this in a different color. So just more or less over that. So I'll be using this as a mask so that I can stamp on top of this. Now there's quite a bit of ink already, so I'll just turn this over, and then I'm going to ink this up in Vintage Photo. Yes, I'll ink up the whole thing. A bit of a waste, but this way I can use whatever I want. Going to position this on top. I hope I am in the screen so you can see me. Just do this. You can put some tape on the back of this and tape it down. I really don't bother, because you're not going to move this too much. Just center it as much as possible, and then you can use a stamp block, but just position your stamp over this and you can make an imprint. So because it's such a big stamp, I'm just using my fingers, running it all over. You could have done this, as I said, with a stamp block. And there we have it. Now, this doesn't look like much, but once you take that off, you have that frame. Now there's a bit of fluff. There we go. So we have this stamped image as a frame now, and we can go ahead and simply add an image here, and without any extra effort, we've got this beautiful little card that we can add. Another one of those little things that you can add to your bits and bobs in an easy way. Just a simple card. Got a mask. I will not throw this away. This can be an easy journal card. And that's exactly what we will do. We will just round the corners quickly. There we have that image. Maybe again use our lovely little stamp, Zig-zag. Add that as a heading, more or less in the middle. And that tiny little stamp. Figures 1, 2, 3, 4. And 5. I always forget 5. And there we have it. Maybe one of this, but this one I want in a different color. Say tea dye, just to be different. Literally just to be different. And we can maybe add it there. Just some interest. And there we have it. There we have it. A tiny little card that we can add to here without any extra. Now you can go ahead and ink the edges, which to me just rounds it off well and complete that vintage look, which is also in the antiquarian theme with this. And you can simply slot it in there, which is giving you extra journaling space, and you have a beautiful tag. So this one, let's round it. What will we use? The ticket one, just because we can. So if you don't have this one, you can simply use a circle punch and just use a corner of that. Ink it again, and there you have another way that you can make bits and bobs without a lot of effort. It's actually so quick. It was just that extra little bitty. So there we have it for today. We didn't get to this one, and that's fine. We can do it another time. We had done the jumbo tag with white stamping on an inked background, so you don't always have to have paper. We added it in browns and oranges with a Rusty Hinge, some tea dye, and then I have added a bit of Vintage Photo, mostly on the darker splotches with the stencil, so that the white of the white stamping is really contrasting well. Then, using one of the previous ink smooshing and ink flicking, water flicking technique, we had done a second tag. Then a variation of our double tag pocket. We made one that looks like a tag, but it's a booklet. you can sew in a little bit here, which is maybe what I want to do. And I will show you with the, this is opening up, it needs a bit of pressure just to glue down, to look like a little booklet. Once you open it up, there can be paper in here, and then our little hidden folio where you can have photo, you can add journaling on both sides, and it still fits in with our theme. You can make this also in a little journal by adding a few sheets of paper to this. You don't have to sew it in. Remember the technique where I showed you with the little matchbook, where you can staple in the middle using an eraser to staple. In that, you will fold it over, put the eraser underneath, staple into the eraser, pull it out, turn over, and fold your stapled ends in, so you don't have to staple. But there you have it for today. A quick few things. Journal card, you can go ahead and stamp on that, maybe in black or a ground espresso that is really truly dark. There's so much that you can do. Today's session was just to show you that you can do so much with what you already have and already know. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for being here today, for joining me. Go try it for yourself. It is about having a play, getting comfortable with your tools and your things that you have. It's the same stamp sets that we had been using from the start, but we have now made so much with this. So go try it. And as always, please tag me, Wawa Crafting, on social media if you do make some for yourself. I would love to see what you are making. And if you want to see more content like this, please give me a thumbs up. And of course, I'll be appreciative if you subscribe too. See you back soon.